we are live on, are you ready for this, Scott?
I am ready. Are you ready for this, Dave?
I'm ready, but I'm not sure what you're thinking. I'm thinking today is Friday, the 13th.
Dun, dun, dun.
Are you a triskaidekaphobic?
Yes.
I love to say that word.
I don't even know what that means.
Fear of the number 13.
Nah.
You know that.
Lucky number.
Yep. And you got to remember, for every Friday the 13th, there's a Thursday the 12th and a Saturday the 14th.
Wow. That's like words of wisdom.
I'm blowing, huh?
Words of wisdom. Brilliant.
This is Friday the 14th Strikes Back. Because Saturday. It's a sequel to Friday the 14th or Saturday the 14th Strikes Back.
Nice.
A sequel, not surprisingly, to Saturday the 14th. This one stars my cousin as the head vampire.
Seriously?
Charlene.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Look up my cousin sometime. You will find her in genres and realms that will shock and amaze and surprise you. And I'm not going to give her name. Look it up if you're that interested. Saturday the 14th Strikes Back, Charlene, and
all
go
right.
from there.
Cool. A famous cousin. That's awesome. So, hey, everyone. Welcome to the Friday Q&A with Dave Rush and Scott Jernigan. I am the second half of that. I'm Scott Jernigan. I'm editor.
You think about that, did you?
Yeah, I did, right? I've been working with Mike Meyers, esteemed Nobel author, for the past couple of decades, doing writing and editing and teaching, and being a general all about town sort of technician. My colleague, Dave Rush.
Senior instructor at Total Seminars, pie guy. I can ride a bicycle and I can make spaghetti. Been trying to enhance my resume, adding those things as we go.
So we are here on this lovely Friday to provide a venue for those of us who are still under lockdown and studying for CompTIA certifications such as IT Fundamentals Plus, A Plus, Network Plus, Security Plus, and we can even venture into CYSA Plus and Pentest Plus if you really want to, although for the most part, when you're going to ask those questions, I'll be like, huh?
Scott is neck deep in CYSA lately. I just had to edit 150 CYSA practice test questions, so we are rocking and rolling CYSA.
Okay, all right. And I think they call it CISA.
Yeah. I say potato. I say meatloaf.
I just call it CYSA Plus.
There you go.
That just blows it all away.
If you would like to get in contact with us, we would love to see your questions posted here on the feed, because that's kind of what this is all about. It's a drama. Dave Rush Ask Me Anything and Scott dramas. But your question gets missed. You got a long question. You want us to pontificate deeply and roundtable it between me and Scott and Mike and Michael and various other members of the Brain Trust. Send us an email, daver@totalsem.com, scottj@totalsem.com, Mike M@totalsem.com. If you want to pester Mike directly, catch us on Steam as Blood Rush TX or Scarheart. And I'm not going to read the rest of the junk to you. It's up on the screen. You can play it back on the archive. Tell them what they won, Scott.
Well, this week, our AMA Q&A special deal is 50% off on all A Plus and Network Plus Total Tester and Total Tester Sims bundles. Total Tester being the practice exams that very closely mirror the actual CompTIA exams. The Sims bundles are the performance-based question simulations. So A Plus and Network Plus bundles and standalone Total Tester and the Security Plus Total Tester. And before you ask me, Andre, yes, I'm still working on the Security Plus simulations, but I'm not there yet.
Good to know. Well, let's see who's here and what they're talking about, and then we'll dig into the meat a little.
Right. And so the key here is for you guys to ask us questions. Between Dave and I, we probably have more experience than a lot of you people have been alive. So, you know, and we can range pretty far afield. not just in technical subjects, but anything aside from politics and religion, which we can both argue a lot, but not here. So anything else is on the table. Ask us anything.
So
yeah.
Brendan S. is here. He's sleepy for a Friday. Not sure how to parse that. Okay.
Right. Okay.
I'm not usually sleepy on Fridays, but the other 3.5 days a week. Hello, you Foreman. You for Raymond. Sorry about that. And Dr. Quinn is here. Happy Friday the 13th to you.
Excellent.
Connor, good to see you.
Sean, top of the morning.
Year of the, yep. Can't tell what Dave's shirt is this week. Oh yeah, I guess I'm a little off center on that. 1982 Doobie Brothers tour. Official name of it was the Farewell Tour. They didn't actually farewell, of course, but I did a double album set out of that, and I look forward to your puns. Because it was a double album set, there's a lot of great titles in that album to have fun with. So we're gonna do Kali Linux today. We're gonna take it to the street.
Okay.
We're gonna run it up. We got a little town over by San Antonio called China Grove, and I'm planning on running it there. All right, 2 done. You're on your own for the rest.
Nice, Dave.
It's 6 a.m. on Saturday in Oz, says Sean McLaughlin. Okay, Sean. Yeah, I'm guessing based on the McLaughlin, your family was sent there with the rest of the criminals and kept the old homestead name and didn't change your name to a nice Aussie name like Oz Billabong. God, I love Oz. I've been there and can't wait to get back. We're going to, when the kid graduates from college, we're going back. We've been all over the world and there's a lot of places we want to return to, but that's the first place we want to go back to. And then head on over to the Kiwi world too, because that was a lot of fun.
Sweet.
And Kathy Y, some of you may have encountered her if you won contests or otherwise been in contact. She's got a daughter living there, been there many, many times. Hey, Tarun, nice to see you, amigo. I know it's not a Spanish name. Dave's holding something that isn't a pie. Oh, well, I was holding what everybody knows is apple cider.
You were also holding a DVD, is when he posted.
A DVD?
You were posting a movie.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I got the memory of a gnat. Some people can't remember what they had for breakfast. I can't remember if I had breakfast.
Nice.
Alice, I learn more and more about you as I go back and do these indexes. By the way, the indexes are this close. I have 3 to go as of this morning, now 4 because of this. But we're finishing these indexes, and one of our, Ian, some of you know Ian, has already started posting some of the indexes in the YouTube archives. So they are now searchable. If I do a line that says at time mark 1 minute 45 and 37 seconds, Mike talks about DHCP servers, you'll be able to search the YouTube channel for DHCP or servers or whatever other keywords that we've thrown into these indices and be able to find these archives quickly and easily. So and I have to listen to all these things. And Alice, I saw something on an index that I did in the last day or so where you said you're 100% Linux. You go, man. And I recall something that you said a while back, actually fairly recently, that you had success getting real VNC server to work on Kali. I didn't. I went another route, but down road on Discord or something like that, I would love to touch base with you and see what you did that I didn't and see what I can learn from you.
All right, sounds good.
I'm no expert here. My email's been compromised, says Elbow, to some degree. I'm not sure the severity just yet. Abandon it. Start a whole new email domain and a whole new server. Change all your passwords. Hide under a blanket and have soup delivered to you every day. Hope you get that fixed.
Wow, Dave.
I heard
encouragement.
This won't affect many people on stream, but you may have heard, Scott, and a couple of other of our Texas joinees. The Texas driver's license database was exposed over the last couple of days, and they're using terms like may have been compromised, which I take to mean was absolutely compromised, but we're covering ourselves.
Right.
So I'm changing my driver's license. Not sure if I can do that.
So, it's funny. You hear about identity theft. That actually happened to me. And I'm ridiculously careful with stuff because I'm aware of the risks. I mean, just flat out theft of identity, grabbing social security records, the whole thing. It's like, that's painful, and many years that it continues to be painful. So not a joke, and something to be very careful about.
Yeah, you had a tax impact on that, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Elbow says a couple of weeks ago, a bunch of unsuccessful automatic IMAP sync attempts from Malaysia with my Outlook mail. I changed my password with Microsoft and basically said, don't worry about it, you're safe. Yeah, because no skin off their beak if they're wrong. Follow it, elbow, change that password. I skipped the ats.
Yeah.
If that's something you want Scott or I to specifically address, either leave an at out of it or put an at Scott Jernigan or an at Dave Rush in there, and I will pause it and read it. But otherwise, I'm zooming.
So at 2:07,
cool stuff to do today.
At 2:07, Brendan posts he was up late setting up the PlayStation 5 and playing into the wee morning hours. So that's why he's sleepy.
And he didn't say
the right reasons, Brendan.
Absolutely.
All the right reasons.
But one missing fact there. What did you play to the wee hours? And at 2:07, rocking down the highway.
Yeah.
I always thought it was rolling down the highway. I hate it when you screw up.
That's the one thing you didn't put into the indices. You didn't make references to all of Tulowitz's puns.
Oh.
I think we need to go back through all of these things just to include the puns.
So there are actually two reasons that I don't do that. I don't have a gaming keyboard, so my keys couldn't tolerate that much typing, and there's not enough electrons to fill the internet with all.
Fair enough.
Yeah, my pleasure, Brendan. And Scott's pleasure to have assigned it to me. This was an idea of his long ago where we're going to extend this into some other really cool things. This is sort of a foundational project to do these indices. We have some offshoot projects that are going to come from it, and we'll let you know as they develop, but they should develop fairly quickly after this part's done. Alice Potsy, Dave and Scott, could you please explain the concept of software-defined networking and distributed switching? Okay, that wasn't Alice who did the two killers at the beginning of last week. Who was that? Or was it Alice? It was
Alice.
Okay. So Alice, I'm good for one of them. I'm going to give you a really short version of it.
Okay.
And I'm going to pull up my handy dandy index where Mike talked about software-defined networking. I'll give you the archive on that. He did a full presentation on SD-WAN. Excuse me. So I can do that. I do not know anything about software-defined, about distributed switching. Do you, Scott?
I'm going to say I don't know, just because I do know, but I'm not 100% sure, and I don't want to give you any disinformation. So throw
that one out to Mike. Well, I'll save the question, pass it along for him to take a gander at. Let me mark this real quick, and then I'll give you what limited answer we can pull off here. This goes here, this goes here, and that's done.
And I'll make sure that we'll have done our research or refreshed our memory and hand that question off to Mike, Alice, for his Monday AMA. So be there.
Yep.
BL7.
Okay. Software-defined networking and its cousin, software-defined wide area networking, are methods of replacing physical connective devices. So if I want to connect 2 buildings on a campus, 2 facilities across the country or across the world, there are 3 ways to do it. One of them is to purchase dedicated hardware. So I need a connective device at each of the sites, and I need to lease, or I suppose buy, the appropriate physical cabling between the 2 of them. That's an old solution. We don't do that one anymore, but it was a way. Method number 2 says, just use the internet and just use a different ISP in each location, and that's an okay method, but there's some exposure to that, especially if you're trying to create a private network. SD-WAN says we're going to use the internet and we're going to interconnect our facilities using what is essentially a gigantic multi-port VPN. So we're going to use the internet and we're going to create these VPN servers at these different sites, and there'll be an encryption portal between all of them that uses the same encryption. That's the cool thing about it. So it looks, acts, and smells like we have wires all coming out of our different facilities and going to a central location where ostensibly there would be a physical device. Doesn't really work that way. They all work collaboratively to create this virtual private circuit. That's a very, very broad overview. There's a lot more detail and subtlety to it, but that's the short version. Scott's looking like Dave's blowing this a little bit. Am I?
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Okay. All right, and it replaces things that we used to use, like MPLS, multi-protocol service. I don't remember what the L is for. I could do a mic and just make up an L. Laboratory, yeah, multi-protocol lavatory service. But no, but MPLS was kind of a hardware solution that used the internet to accomplish a similar thing. But now we're saying, no, we don't need that stuff. We can do this all with sophisticated software, because the computers that we use day to day and the routers and things like that are so sophisticated and so powerful that we don't have to buy specialized hardware to pull this off. So I can't help you on the switching. We will look into that.
Absolutely. So at 207, Sean McLaughlin had a question on doing like setting up a star network and connecting to a printer, right?
Okay.
You retracted the question, so I'm kind of waiting. Sean, go ahead and post your question again. More than happy to answer it.
Sure, we got one to that.
Yeah.
Oh, Alice. Okay. Well, thank you. You got that working on Raspberry and not on Kali. Okay. Yeah, that one's a cakewalk. I hadn't realized that when you asked. I thought when you asked, we were still talking about Kali. So, hello, Patricia Grace. Nice to see you. By the way, when we get done with this is Friday. Scott's got a meeting and a leaky dog, but he will join probably thereafter over on the unofficial Total Seminars Discord site that Jose Braden set up. I'll be over there. Scott will probably post a message, a link for that real soon if you haven't already become a member of that Discord server. I was never a member of Discord until Jose set that up. And now I don't regret it. I'm always terrified at joining new services.
Discord, I've been using Discord for a long time, just to do gaming and stuff, and have that little side channel of chat while,
Yeah, it's funny, as I've been reading into it more and more to learn about it, there are people who complain as users because they can only join 100 Discord servers. How much time do you have on your hands?
Right? Yeah.
I had to disconnect from this Discord server so I could connect to that one. Elbow, Alice Potsy, no, okay. Only the good ones. Yeah, we're going to take this minute by minute and go through.
So yeah, we're at about 2:12. So
Me too.
We're a few minutes behind, not too much.
You missed my pun. That's a minute by minute pun, dude.
I don't know. I know nothing about the Doobie Brothers.
Oh, okay. Well, all forgiven then.
So that was not my genre. In
Yeah.
the 70s, I was into heavy metal. So we're definitely not
That
my.
explains your hair. You do
Uh-huh.
that. You can... U4 Raymond at 212, line 2 elbow about activating two-factor auth. Microsoft has always has for the last few years been pushing two-factor auth, and yesterday their head of security recommendations for things like that has announced two-factor auth is a bad thing, and that you should, it's already on there somewhere, and that you should use, of course, Microsoft's new multi-factor authentication management application. But if you look that up, it's an interesting couple of reads about what he's talking about.
Cool.
I was playing Brendan 213. I was playing the new Demon's Souls PS5 version, which looks amazing. Still difficult.
I haven't played that one.
Me neither. U4 retracted one at 215. You're gonna have to explain that, U4. Come on over to the Discord server when you're done and fill us in on that. Hey, by the way, Brave Traveler on Discord. Somebody let me know who that is. I'll ask him directly, but a lot of input from that person. I'm just kind of curious if that's somebody we know from here. Brendan S. I find ifconfig a bit more confusing to read than ipconfig. Can you define some of the main features? Yeah. And let me suggest to you, first of all, that technically, officially, ifconfig is dead. Now, it's still a mandatory item on the CompTIA list, but it is officially deprecated and replaced by the command IP. So if you run ifconfig, and there's a corollary iwconfig that gives greater detail about the wireless LAN interface for interface, and it does give info on both wired and wireless interfaces. But let me open up a terminal session somewhere.
Let me make one statement on that.
Go ahead while I get this up and running.
Absolutely. ifconfig, my understanding that it is still very much alive and well on Mac OS.
It's like every other deprecated utility. When they deprecate them, they don't pull them out for a long, long time. So they're still there and they're still working. And because of the nature of Mac OS, which is a Linux distro, it doesn't support the IP command replacement.
That's what I meant by.
Okay, so yeah, it's still around, yeah, on non-Linux. Right, they're not Linux, they're Unix.
Correct.
Screen drama. Drama's a good one to grab onto.
Okay.
Okay, I'm not sharing yet. I'm getting there.
You're
going to remind me, are we supposed to be seeing this, Dave? Yeah, that'd be a good idea.
Words out of my mouth. As you well know.
Okay, so here's a terminal session in a Linux box. By amazing coincidence, the Linux box happens to be a Raspberry Pi running RPi OS. So let's just run a quick, come here, you. Ifconfig, interface config. And the more interfaces you have, the longer this screen is going to be. So he starts out on top with ETH0. That's your first wired interface card. If you have more than one physical Ethernet cards, there'll be an ETH1 and an ETH2 and so forth. So yeah, it's not as, well, I don't know. I don't want to say it's not as clean as ipconfig, because when you do ipconfig, you can get a very large list of information, especially if you do ipconfig/all. All this junk is in there. It's just done in a more columnar fashion. Each piece of information is on its own dedicated line, whereas ifconfig combines some things on a single line. So here, inet is its IP address, its IP network address. So on here, 192.168.1.32. And you would have on ipconfig a subnet mask, or mask would, I can't think of what ipconfig actually calls it, but whatever it is, it's mask or subnet or something like that. So we got a mask of WAC 24, 255.255.255.0. And this is just old information that stays in here because it was programmed in a bazillion years ago. Since we're on a network that uses the first 3 octets as the network address, the network address is 192.168.1. And if you have all ones in the leftover host bit portions, 1 octet in this instance, which would be 255 or 8 ones, that's the broadcast address. That's why you can't assign any single host the address of 192.168.1.255. If you send a message to 192.168.1.255, like a ping, but ping actually has that prevented from doing that, that will go to all hosts on the 192.168.1 network. Then there's my IPv6 information. The prefix length is the same thing as a subnet mask. Remember, an IPv6 address has 128 bits. And so the first 64 bits are the subnet mask. That's what the prefix length means. I don't know what the scope ID is above and beyond me. This one has a link local address since it starts with FE80. And it has a global IPv6, 2601. Well, half of these things are the network address because it also has a prefix length of 64. One of the things that you can do with this is really kind of cool. Let me do a clear here. I'm going to do the same command, and I'm going to pipe it through grep. This is the filter that says, I will show you any single line that contains whatever word you type in after this. So if I only want to see, oh, I don't know, ETH0, the information from ETH0. There's the one line in all of ifconfig that has the phrase ETH0 in it. So you can get a little bit of filtering done out of that way. I expected more than that. What am I doing here? ifconfig. Oh, that was exactly correct. It took this. So I wasn't able to find out the IP address. And that's going to be a bit of a problem for the demo I'm about to do, but I'll show you that. Clear. How about the lines that have inet? There's more than one of these, unfortunately. In fact, there are 8 of them. All right, so that's the short course on ifconfig. Now, I said at the beginning this was replaced in Linux distros by IP. So it's a little cleaner, a little more efficient if I say IP, oh, I don't know, let's do IP help. You can read that and study it. I'm not going to. I'm going to show you the one command that I use all the time, IP address. And a lot of similar information. There's a little more information in IP-ADDR and a little less than you get with ifconfig. But this is what the Linux world is moving toward. Hope that answers your question. Let me know if I can do more. I'll leave that up. What are you doing? Clear. I am so anal retentive that I just have to, there, close things when I leave them, which really hurt me with my Kali experiments this week. Undo that. We're going to need that later. All right, what's next, Scott?
So Andre de Guyert is here.
Andre, nice to see you, buddy.
Frank has a question at 217. Is SDN similar to DM VPN?
Well, if I opened up a search window and looked up DM VPN,
I'm like,
I might be able to read the answer to you, but out of my area of expertise.
Yep.
So Connor, I will save that one. Sorry, Frank. Frank got a tough one for Mike the other day, as I recall, too.
You've got a couple of pretty hefty stuff here going on today. Because
DM,
right after
I'll bet that M stands for multi or multiple, and may very well be an implementation of SDN, but I can't speak authoritatively on that. Multi-prophetical label switching. Multi-prophetical. Thank you. All this time I thought it was multi-protocol, and it is. I know that part of MPLS.
prophetical.
I think it's multi-prophetical laser switching is what you're thinking.
We need more profits. More profits.
Yeah, that's the problem. Profit should have been spelled with an F, huh? Sean, at home, I have 3 Ps connected to the same switch, but I can't share between them. I'm wondering how to make a network to share a printer. Would I usually enter the IP and subnet mask manually? Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to presume that the 3 machines that you have connected together are all able to talk to one another. Yeah? Because if not, then the root of your problem is probably a mismatched set of IP addresses, or possibly your switch is set up as a VLAN and they're on different VLAN ports. But let's just assume everything is set up correctly, and you plug in a network printer today, and darn it, I just can't print to it. So yeah, built into that printer, all modern network printers have a DHCP client, and it can pull off an IP address from your DHCP server, but then you've got to figure out what it is. Maybe there's a status page on your printer on the screen, or maybe you got to run a utility like Angry IP or Advanced IP Scanner. That one's my preference. Mike likes Angry. But the way I have all my network printers set up, the way we do this in the Total Seminars offices when we were there almost a year ago, it seems, is you go to the control panel setup on your printer, and you manually set an appropriate non-conflicting IP address, one that's out of the scope of a DHCP server that you have. And then you have to load the appropriate driver in the computers that you're going to have use this printer, and then add a new printer, and it's going to be a TCP IP printer, and you've got to put in all the appropriate information there, the IP address, the subnet mask. It doesn't have a subnet mask. The protocol, if you're going to use RAW or LPR or something like that. So probably all those steps are documented at the manufacturer's support site. If not, it's a fairly generic process. And if you just look up Google installing an IP printer or network printer for a Windows network, something like that, you'll find those steps. They're pretty well documented. But yeah, you do got to put the IP address and subnet mask in there somehow, some way.
Right.
At 2:18, Scott Jernigan posted the link to the Discord server. We will see you there shortly after the show.
What a guy. What a nice guy.
You are a nice man. And that matches up with everything everyone says about you. Good singing voice, nice guy, is no longer a foodie.
Yeah, I'm not a foodie. That's true. That is very true. So it's
19. You for Raymond. How are we doing on time here? 33. Okay.
Yeah, we're good.
How can a DNS amplification attack get through to the target host? Wouldn't the DMZ firewall block the packets since port forwarding? I think I saw this question in the last 48 hours. Maybe you posted that on Mike's and it didn't get answered. And in fact, I'll bet that's it. So DMZ amplification, DNS amplification attack. Thank you. Scared me there. A DNS amplification attack isn't an attack on the internals of a host. It's a denial of service attack. So it happens to the outside, where you get a bunch of DNS servers blasting responses to a particular host with protocol, with IP resolutions or name resolutions. We're doing forward lookups or reverse lookups. And the whole point is to get so many DNS servers ripping content to your machine that your machine can't do its normal job. It can't access outbound internet. So it's not that it's getting through a DMZ or a firewall. It's that your system is just being so blasted by traffic that you can't access the internet. When corporations are hit by a DNS amplification attack or any other kind of DDoS attack or even DOS attack, there's nothing they can do internally to fix it. They call up Cloudflare and say, hey, please take my IP address to one of your servers, and that will cause all the traffic and update the appropriate DNS server. Now all the attacking traffic will go to your server, which is big and powerful and monstrous and can filter out DNS stuff and let through my outbound traffic and let in any legitimate traffic that's destined for me. So hope that helps.
Good.
Good, Tellowit. About time. We'll learn more about Python, particularly as it deals with data science.
Who's our instructor?
The Romanian guy. I'm so terrible with names. I'd have to go look it up.
That was bad. That was bad.
Yeah. So
Patricia, who's our instructor?
the question, Connor, that I have to throw back to you, I want to learn more about Python. So are you already a Python coder, and are you looking to specialize in data science or industrial aspects? Because there are plenty of focus courses out there with that presumption. You know general Python code, and now here's how we can do data analysis, statistical analysis, and things like that. That's really what data science all comes down to. Sorting, organizing, and analyzing databases and other statistical information. If you're looking, if you've got a zero background like I do, except for my couple of weeks in my basic Python class, then start with a basic Python class and go from there. And I invite anybody to offer suggestions to Connor for that one.
And the reason I threw out the question to Patricia is Dave, Patricia, Grace, myself, a couple other people have all signed up for the same Udemy course recently. So we're kind of all boat people getting our feet wet or wetter in Python. So looks like it's a really good course so far.
Right. So his follow-up question was to learn from online. Udemy is just an awesome source. There are zillions of Python classes and specialty Python classes available on Udemy. Wait till they go on sale. They have one-day sales. They had 2 one-day sales in the last week or so where courses were 11 and 12 bucks a piece. So you can't go wrong with that.
Right.
Because they're a lifetime, and Python doesn't change much over a lifetime.
Web Dev Bootcamp, you have not missed the Kali installation yet. So
yeah, I'm going to start that somewhere between 45 after and on the hour.
Yeah, we'll get to it shortly. We're just like going through some questions. Yep. We're right around 224.
Yep, exactly where I am. CMD has a better ifconfig layout, but maybe because I'm used to it. Yeah, probably the case, because the old Linux and Unix users think that ifconfig is messy. So it's what you're used to.
And yes, Tellowit, you are in that same Python course with us, and minute by minute, you're learning it. Yeah.
Welcome, Ulysses. You're not late. We're just answering questions. We'll get to Kali in a little bit here.
So the pun flow of the day, those of you who joined a little late, is all based on the Doobie Brothers shirt that's hanging on the wall behind Dave. So if you don't know who the Doobie Brothers are, you won't get most of the puns. But
most people here are old timers, but there's always a few new faces. So I have a tradition. Every week I hang up a different concert shirt or some other concert reference, or sometimes something just funky and unusual. And people take off and make puns out of song titles from whatever band I've got up, or otherwise comment on it. Sorry, I super scrolled. I'm heading back up.
Yeah, and that's also a thing for those of you who haven't experienced it yet. The YouTube live stream thing, sometimes you click on it and it'll just scroll all the way to the end. So we'll be like, okay, where were we? And have to go back up. So,
man, that was a deep reference for Dependent on You, buddy. You looked that up. You didn't know that song. By the way, I did not go to this concert. I can't think if I've ever been to a Doobie Brothers concert. This is my wife's shirt from '82.
I would make the obvious.
Oh, wait, I have been. Sorry, go ahead.
I would make the obvious reference to what a doobie stands for, which is why you probably don't remember going to the concert. But I'm not going to make that reference because, it's still a felony in Texas.
I went to a Doobie Brothers concert here in Houston 10, 12, 14 years ago, something like that. And I wasn't that interested. They were the opener. I was more interested in seeing the main band, but we had these really awesome seats. But there's video of me. I brought a newspaper back when we read newspapers, and I read the newspaper during most of the Doobie Brothers set.
Wow.
My wife beats the crap out of me for that to this day because she worships the Doobies. She was there for them.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. It was rude. I would never do that again.
Ulysses newspaper. What's that?
Yeah, exactly.
It's a thing of your forefathers.
Right. Back when we used to make notes with burnt charred sticks. We did that reference a couple weeks ago. I can't do it. Same reference 2 weeks in a row.
Nah, definitely not.
All right. Reading lots of ats. Everybody's talking to Ulysses. Cool. I love your name, Ulysses. I hope that's a real name and not just a moniker. Because I love Farrar. I love Jose Farrar like nobody's business.
So those of you in Florida, I know Patricia posted a couple of pictures from on Discord. Ulysses, you're also there in Florida too, right? I hope all of you and yours fared well in the storm. My parents are there as well, and they were like, "Oh, wow, it got really, really wet." Yeah, so
I never did ask. I'm sorry about that. Well, we'll all get another chance with Iota coming at us now.
Oh, good Lord!
Yeah,
this is like the most active storm season ever.
Yeah, in history.
Wow.
You know what? This is too much. I can't think of everything. Right. Yeah, that's a good thing, Elbow, and maybe the bad thing when you get surrounded by a bunch of tech gurus and weenies who know stuff about this, and some of them have experienced, you can expect a fire hose full of good advice, and maybe some of not so good.
Right.
You moved to Linux as a daily driver, Ulysses. That's a brave thing to do. It's a hard thing to do, especially when the world lives so much on Microsoft and they don't have much in the way yet of Linux-based Office 365 tools. I have no doubt they will as WSL continues to grow, but wow, sweet. The city of Munich converted a few years ago. They are the biggest experimental government agency to ever try that. They pay a lot of money to support. I think Red Hat is their primary Linux provider. And in the end, after all that, they said there's certainly a cost savings. It was something on the order of 20% per year over Windows and Windows-based software. But obviously, for all of their users and employees, there was a learning curve and a lot of pain in the beginning. But they've been running for years stably now. München, if you're from the area.
Very nice, Dave.
Moving past 235.
I think once we have the vaccines in place and we're all like safe and we can move on, I think we're all going to come visit you, Telewit. All of us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Going to Hawaii.
Yeah, I've never had an interest in going to Hawaii. My kid has. Sorry.
It's paradise on earth, man.
Yeah. I'll go now because I got Telewit to visit.
Yeah, it's stunning.
Wade Wellman at 237. Hi, Wade.
Hey, Wade.
Why assign a fixed IP address to a user in a DHCP environment? And the answer is probably not. Users are the last people who need a fixed IP address. However, there are resources that you don't ever want to change, like if you're running in an internal web server, an internal network printer, things like that. Those are what we use fixed IP addresses for. But for hosts, you mostly don't know or care what your IP address is, unless you're running on your machine, maybe an IIS web server, or if you're in Linux, you're running an Apache web server, something like that, and you want other people to access it. Okay, a fixed IP address works for that. And there's always the other solution that says, go ahead and run DHCP on everything, even your internal servers and things like that, and have a DNS server with auto registration. So anytime the system gets a new different IP address, or every time it gets assigned a fresh one because it rebooted, it passes that on to the DHCP server. It's a pain, but to set up, but once it's set up, it's a great little tool.
Yeah, I tend to assign static IP addresses to printers on my network. Can you see it in the background? The network attached storage, the NAS box there.
Oh, okay.
The white thing, that has dedicated IP because I access it from not just within my own network, but from without as well. So having that as static IP means I don't have to worry about any weird changes. So
Yeah.
but other than that, yeah, DHCP all the way.
Yeah, tell her what's in the course. You're very welcome, Connor. Hope it was helpful. Looking good. Yeah, we won't come there now. We're on a vacation in a mask, but I do see that they opened up tourism. I'm not sure. I think there was some change in their quarantine policies. Writing Kali to an SD as you speak. Sounds good. You can skip the first third of our presentation. Yeah, installing Kali is a really easy thing to do. It's a simple 3-step process, 3.5. I'm not going to show you, I will show you all the steps. I'm not going to do it because the download takes forever and the extraction and the writing to the SD card takes a little while. That, of course, already done in advance, but I'll show you how to do it.
Yeah.
So, I already did no, I meant to do long train running and I let it go. Wait, stole my thunder.
Yeah.
Tolwood's got a checklist with all their songs on his second screen. I've always bet that.
So, so congratulations is in order to Andre, by the way, not past to certification, but because he finally got his third monitor set up.
Yes.
So that
saw that on Discord and saw the picture. It looks good.
Yeah, it looks great. So congrats. I mean, going from 1 to 2 is like life changing. I mean, seriously, life changing. If you haven't plugged in a second monitor yet, do it. Even if it's smaller, even if it's not as high res, because then suddenly your workflow will change dramatically and for the better.
Absolutely.
Going to a third is a challenge, depending on how big they are. So, yeah.
Cool. 241, Patricia telling us about her fallen plant. I saw the picture of that on Discord. Yep. Yeah, I would get in touch with my insurance company on that pretty quick.
Yeah, fallen plants are important.
Oh, wait, how many screens do you have connected to your PCs nowadays? I'm terrified to find that out. The answer is a pun from a Doobie Brothers song, I'm sure. 3 monitors and climbing, something like that.
Okay. So Wade had a follow-up comment and why he was asking that question about assigning static IP addresses.
Okay.
Does his former 3-letter employer assign dedicated IP addresses to each user? And it never made sense.
Okay, that makes sense to me. That's an auditing trail. That's so they can identify everything you do and everywhere you go.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, since they could track it by MAC address anyway, I mean, what's the...
MAC address is spoofable.
That's true. Okay. All right. I can see that. Audit trail. We want to know exactly. Exactly.
Okay, I'm almost at the end here. I'm at 246. Static address for Pi-hole. Absolutely. It's almost impossible to do a Pi-hole with a DHCP address. Pi-hole, for anybody new, is a box that you put in your network that handles all of your DNS requests, and it filters out ones that are known ad providers. And same thing for your NAS, right? You don't want that to change. You're constantly accessing that.
Right. And at 246 U4 Raymond was like, printers are hard work, as is sometimes. So assigning it as static IP makes sense.
Yeah.
I hate network printers. I really do. I despise them. And I especially despise wireless network printers. They just randomly stop working.
I completely agree with you.
Just so frustrating. And they're on the consumer space, they're so simplified that it's like, oh, I just need to press this button and then it'll it's like, what is it doing?
Yeah.
Set a static IP. I know how to do all these things.
Yeah, it's like an Apple.
My Macs are not like my printer. My printer, I want to defenestrate it. Look it up.
I guess more than 9 months ago, we bailed out of the office. I don't know, either March 3rd or March 7th. But a couple of months before that, I brought in a printer from home that became surplus to use in my office. And it's a wired printer, network printer. And it was a 2-day process to get set up and functional correctly. And what a pain. Alice post Big Brother. I got a really interesting question on Udemy from a student not long ago. How are we doing here? 51. Okay, perfect, because we're just about to bottom out. Who says, Mike is always talking about Big Brother. What is Big Brother? Is that something I should know? So I did a little blurb on
Really?
Orwell, and then something. It turned into a thread that I had to kill of everybody who wrote about dystopian and political books that everybody should read. Sorry, no, you don't have to know Big Brother. Here's a good movie and a good book. Now move along.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he wrote it a long, long time ago. So if you didn't get exposed to it in school.
Do you know when he wrote it? Because if you don't know, I will give you the easiest way to remember.
Well before 1984.
Yes, 1948.
Oh, sweet.
That's how he picked the year.
All right. I will never forget that.
All right. I am coming up on the end here. Throw it out the window. I knew that. Scott Jernigan has a 4,000-pound HP printer, pound as in currency, not weight. But I've been to his house. He does have a 4,000-pound printer. One of the earliest ones. Came with the ENIAC in 1937.
Uses rocks to print letters. Rocks.
There's that little bird in there with the chisel and hammer. MPLS, layer 2 switch fabric. Okay, we're going to dive into MPLS. Forget it. You're exactly right. It's a layer 2 set of switching hardware, and it's competitive with ATM and moving along. I'll bet you $1,000 that Wade Wellman's middle name is Michael.
That was a Michael Smyer joke, by the way.
Who's probably listening, and he will now disable all my accounts.
Right. Our primary network administrator at Total Seminars is named Michael Smyer, not to be confused with Michael Meyers, the company president and chief author. And Michael has the distinction of probably being the smartest human being I've ever met. I mean, just ridiculous how much he knows and can synthesize systems, and then proceed to look at me, and look at Dave, and over-explain these things so bad that it's just like we're all the way in the weeds, man.
He's the only guy I know.
You, man.
He's the only person I know who mansplains to men.
He explains. It's even worse than mansplaining.
Okay, let me do about 5 minutes here on history, what we're doing today, and news of the week, and then we'll get fired up on the project. So last week, we took a look at SenseHat. I didn't do as much prep as I could have, should have, would have. There was 1 or 2 minor hiccups, but it all went great. And I'm going to show you something at the end of the stream today to help really expand on that. Somebody asked at the end of the stream when we did that, are there repositories of projects that people have created for SenseHat? And I said enthusiastically, yes, because there probably are. But I didn't actually know that for a fact. I mean, I'd never been to any of them. So I took a look this week and found some, and they're really cool. So I'm going to show you one of the one that's maintained at Raspberry Pi Foundation. That got some amazing stuff. But of course, if you just Google SenseHat projects, you'll find lots of things. And the single most common project, other than writing code that you want to run on the ISS, is as a weather station. It's got the temperature and the pressure and the humidity sensor. So you put it in a reasonably airtight box, but can still has some openings in there so the pressure and temperature can get through, and mount that thing outside or in the windowsill, and you build a remote weather station for it. It's pretty cool. Today, because of interest that we've seen on Mike's AMAs and our Q&As, we're going to install Kali, which I could show you in 7 minutes. That's not the trick. And the trick I just learned today was even more interesting than I thought. I thought that I had seen a post a little while back where Alice Pottsy was having a tough time getting VNC to work on the Kali box. So I threw out an idea or two for her, and she used it and reported back that she got it working. I said, okay, great. And then I thought, well, after I install Kali, I'll use that same advice that I did, and it didn't work. And I fought with it for a day or two, and I abandoned it, and I tried multiple VNC solutions, and they were all either unsatisfactory or flat out didn't work until I found one that kind of works. So that's going to be the real pièce de résistance of today's project, is get Kali installed and then make it accessible by VNC. And I think there's a pretty important reason why it's not easy to do. What I've discovered about Kali is not only is it designed to examine security aspects of hosts and networks, but it takes that philosophy unto its own and says, I'm going to protect myself from hackers and easy access and things like that. So they don't make it easy on us for a number of things that I'll show you.
All right.
So that's today. Kali, there's a couple of people here who don't know what it is. So Kali is a Linux distribution like Raspberry Pi or Ubuntu or Red Hat or SUSE or all the bazillions of others of them. It is specifically designed to host a bunch of network penetration and analysis tools. One that hopefully we'll all know is Wireshark. Another that we certainly should know is Nmap. And there are tons of others. Kali is used for troubleshooting. You don't have to be a penetration analyst to do this thing. You can use this thing to just find problems in networks that are otherwise challenging with the normal utilities that exist on host. It's used for penetration by white hats, people who are good guys who are certifiably trusted to come in, test your network, identify vulnerabilities, and present that to you or your company so that you can work on resolving those vulnerabilities. But it's also used by black hats, bad guys who use these tools to do nefarious things. It's kind of unfortunate. I think one of the coolest things about Kali is this. We all know, everybody who's here, about CompTIA certifications, ITF and A+ and Net+ and Sec+ and CYSA and all of the, and there's a million other certifications out there. Ethical hacking from, I never remember the name of who is the agency that, yeah, you too. Okay, somebody will know it and they'll post it up there. But Kali said, you know what? We think our product is sophisticated enough that it's a marketable credential. If you can demonstrate to an employer or to a customer that you have expertise in using Kali, that has value on a resume or in advertising. And so after years of development, in 2017, they created the KLCP, the Kali Linux Certified Professional Certification. It's tested at Pearson VUE, just like everybody else. And let me show you, I think I already have this link Yes, I do. Let me show you a page. If you're interested in pursuing said certification, there's a lot of good information here on this Pearson VUE site. Look at this. It's home.pearsonvue.com whack Kali, K-A-L-I, and everything that you need to know about how to achieve Kali certification, including their single document that they expect you to know everything in. Think of it as, Mike's 1,200, 1,500 page A+ book. There's a ton of info, and reading it, maybe you can memorize it and learn it, but the obvious goal is for you to read it and then use your Kali box and practice those things and get good enough that you can sign up and take the exam for. So interesting stuff. I think that's just awesome. And that cert's been around for 2 years now, 3 years. And I've never heard of anybody who has one.
Yeah,
I think it's cool.
So, yeah. It's a goal. Right after I get my certified ethical hacker.
Yeah, exactly.
Certification. So
yeah, I've heard really mixed results about people's opinions about which is harder, ethical hacker, or pen test.
I would argue that the former is harder because you have to use EC Council's stuff.
EC Council is the word I was looking for.
Whereas Pen Test Plus, because it's a CompTIA certification and vendor neutral, you can use stuff from all of us. So
reasonable.
Yeah.
News of the week, quickie, and then we're done with all the junky stuff here. NASA's going to shoot up 4 people tomorrow in a SpaceX. It's going up in Dragon.
Okay.
So as you know, as you may know from Mike's AMAs, whenever NASA does a launch or an increment or something like that, there's some special t-shirts that they make available. I was talking with WISA this morning about that. The temporary site is not operational right now for this one, but official nasagear.com has stuff.
Okay. And for those who don't know who WISA is, since we're name dropping, WISA is Mike's
paramour, friend, associate, super friend.
Yeah, special friend, who works at NASA. She's in the
ops planner.
Yeah, she's an ops planner. So yeah, we get
She's the one who schedules astronauts in 5-minute intervals. You're going to do this for this 5 minutes and this for this 5 minutes. And
for this 5 minutes, you can actually go to the restroom. But,
yeah. Well, one time, it was interesting. Somebody asked that question on one of Mike's AMAs that I indexed not long ago. They said, what if in the middle of one of these scheduled periods, somebody says, got to step away? She says, depends on what the project is. We may time them and have to make it up.
Wow.
Yeah.
You took too long.
Saving a lot of a neat thing for the end of the show, but let me show you something cool here. I did not save that page, so I can do it this way. Control click. Oh, there it is. Okay, it's already open. Go to this page. If you're looking beyond dramas for a project, don't wait a week for whatever Dave and Scott have come up with that we think is interesting. First of all, if you got something that you're interested in and you want to see done, send me a note. I'm always looking for a new project. At the end of today, I start brainstorming. What am I going to do next week? Sometimes I can come up with 2 or 3 or 4 weeks of projects in a row that are related. And sometimes, like last week, it took me a day to come up with, hey, let's do Kali. But if you want to do a project and you can't think of it, obviously Google Raspberry Pi projects. I did some of that this week and I found some really great sites. I want to show one of them to you right now.
Alice says she's still waiting for Pi clustering.
Yeah, me too. I just have such a tough time with finding a way to present that in practical manner. All right, this is a site that's on Raspberry Pi's site. So projects.raspberrypi.org, English, EN/projects. What I love about this page, let me see if I can move this. Yes, I can. Got something's in my way here. is the 4 pull downs here. So you can search for projects based on the type or what kind of hardware you want to use. I just want to do something with a Raspberry Pi and no add-ons, or here's a variety of add-ons. And you can read the rest of this. I'm not going to drag this all around and show you. I will show you in more detail at the end of the show if we've got some time. But cool stuff. There's some really interesting things, including you may see here in the hardware, there's a Sense Hat. And here's all kinds of cool Sense Hat oriented projects. Unshare. Go back to here. And I think that gets me through. Oh, the last thing. So my challenges of the week that are related, that have anything to do with this. One, coming up with the idea. That was a day, I don't think I came up with it until Sunday night. And then, okay, so now you got to start doing it and doing the labs and doing the everything. And it all went pretty well, except for the challenge of getting VNC operational. That took about a day and a half. Not a full day and a half, but after my work hours are done for Total Seminar, then I start working on this stuff and stay up as late I can until I either get it done or until I start dropping my head in my bowl of soup, and that wakes me up and means time to go to bed. So that took about 2 nights worth of work. And then I thought, I'm ready to rock. I'm done with this. And then on Thursday, I start working again to get ready for this. And all kinds of fun things happened last night, including the net crashing. And that really didn't affect the project, but it potentially affected and terrified whether or not it would come back up and we would be able to do this. So I fired up a hotspot on the phone to test, do I have enough bandwidth to pull this off if we need to? And good news is, after some work and settings, yes, we can, but I sure hope I didn't have to.
Right.
So after the net came back up last night, I was rehearsing, making sure that you could see things like in terminal with appropriate font sizes and readable fonts and things like that. And you couldn't. The default was too small. And there's a little preferences menu in there where you go and change fonts and change sizes. And they don't stick. And I was in the oh my gosh mode. Did I do something wrong? So I did some research and found out this is a known glitch in every platform that Kali runs on. They've got a botched version of their terminal program, and they don't seem to have much desire to fix it because it impacts so few users. The defaults seem to work fine for most people, but there are obviously exceptions like ours when we're trying to do a demonstration that's readable. And for those folks, there have been very smart, intelligent folks who have developed a nice workaround where you can go deep into some hidden files and folders and edit a buried config file and manually put that stuff in. And that's the kind of stuff that takes 3 hours to research and find and do. And then once you know it, you can do it in 45 seconds. Which was the same problem I ran into last night. I'm testing all kinds of different ways to access VNC. And one of the things I discovered is Kali has a 15-minute idle time screen lock, screensaver. And whenever that lock engages, unlike Raspberry Pi OS, you can't use the VNC client to connect it. So it was too late to go work up another VNC server and client that might bypass that. So again, another hour's worth of work that you can actually do in under a minute. I was able to find the screensaver disable settings, and it's been running on my screen for the last 18 hours. And I found some other tests this morning that I did, and it gets better and better, but challenges. Oh, and then finally, the very last thing in news of the week, I got a contact from one of my coworkers at Total Seminar, Zach. Zach is kind of peripherally interested in Pis, and he saw this new Ubuntu 20.10 that we talked about a week or two ago and decided that he wants it, but he wants to have VNC on it. And again, it's Ubuntu, it's not Kali. And I said, well, Ubuntu's got a VNC server native in its repository. I don't want that one. I've got to use real VNC server because I got real VNC clients on my machine, and I don't want to run, 2 different kinds of same protocols and learn different stuff. So I checked the repository. There is no real VNC for Ubuntu. And I did some research and discovered a very smart gent whose YouTube name is, I wrote it down, Groovy Gorilla. Oh, there it is. Jorge MTDS, all one word, Jorge MTDS. You can look him up. Or if you're interested in doing this, if you're playing with Ubuntu 2010, you can just Google Raspberry Pi, Ubuntu 20.10, real VNC, and you'll find a method that he created. I just dropped something that's really critical for our show. I apologize. Man, I cannot see where it went. All right, we'll fake it. When comes time, I'm going to turn it over to you. I'm going to go crawling around on my floor, Scott.
All right, sounds good.
But there's about a 25-step process where you can get the real VN server running on Ubuntu on a Pi. But,
sounds like a lot of work.
Oh my gosh, it was a lot of work. And then when all this net failure happened last night, at first I didn't realize it was a net failure. I thought it was a problem with my machine. And so, okay, I'll reboot the machine, which is already a painful process. I have so much stuff going on this machine. It takes forever to get back up and configured right. But that stupid update from Microsoft for the new version 20H4 or whatever was queued up. So that killed a couple hours. Here, you're on your own. I got to find that because we're going to need that right away.
So that is always the big question, right? As just the jokes in the feed. When one of us get up in a Zoom meeting, what are we actually wearing? Yeah. So yeah.
I'm wearing shorts today. I tried to avoid showing my knees.
I think Dave is wearing yoga pants.
Yeah,
that's what we do at Total Seminars.
Yep, the hot pink ones that say juicy. Yeah, it's the hot pink ones that say juicy across the butt. All right, well, that finishes that.
Oh, and that was a joke Mike did on Wednesday at his AMA that Monday he's going to be wearing yoga pants with juicy written across his buttocks. So,
all right, I'm blowing past questions. I'm going to get fired up in this project. So answer as you see fit and interject, and we'll go from there. So installing Kali on a Raspberry Pi is a dead simple process. Very pleased about that. Oh, is there any slides here that I don't think there was any slides that you needed to see yet? The AMA weekly special, we'll get that in there, but other than that. Yeah. So first and foremost, Kali website, kali.org, Kali.org. And what you're going to find if and when you get there is the links that we need are not on the actual Kali website. It's on one of their sub-websites. The company that is Kali is called Offensive Software. Is it software? As Offensive Security. And all the stuff that we're going to need is at Offensive Security. And I'll show you those sites as we go. So you can dig for that from the Kali.org webpage, or let me just show you directly where you want to go to get the download. And then I'm going to demo that for you and show you what's cooking. This page, share here. Oh, got to do that first. That'll work. Oh, we did the weekly special. We're good here. So here's everything you need to get started. So offensive-security.com, Kali-Linux-ARM-images. You can Google it. You can find it from Kali.org. And then the image that we want, of course, is the image, for Raspberry Pi. The how to install it and other documentations are found at Kali.org, docs, ARM, Kali Linux, Raspberry Pi as well. So I'm going to just take you there and run you through what you could, should, would have to do.
Okay, sounds good. I mean, it's so simple that even Tolowit could do it. That was his joke, not mine.
Yes, it was. But it was from Discord. I wouldn't have done it on Dramas. All right, so this is the Kali Linux ARM images page. And you may have known this already. There are lots of other ARM-based computers. So there's Chromebooks from various providers. The Pine 64, call that a competitor to Raspberry Pi. The cool thing about it is it came out with a 64-bit version early on and solid run. And then here's a bunch of images for Raspberry. BeagleBone, somebody got a BeagleBone from hubby's trash run a week or so ago. You can install Kali on that. All right, you can go, oh, Banana Pi.
What's a BeagleBone?
That was a competitor to, it came out before Raspberry Pi.
Huh, okay.
And I've got Orange Pis here. 2 or 3 of them. Odroid is another SBC, call it a competitor. So as you go through these things, the one that I used was this one. You can use it on a Raspberry Pi 3 or 4. If you run it on 2, 2 doesn't, it's got to be version 1.2 or newer, and it won't install a 64-bit. It only installs, I think, as a 32-bit version. There's some lesser versions and things like that, but this is the guy I went with. It works beautifully. So Kali Linux for Raspberry Pi 2, 3, and 4. And I'm doing this on a Raspberry Pi 4 with 2 gigs. That's their recommended platform right now. 4 gigs is fine, 8 gigs is fine, but they're both overkill. So all you got to do is either click the torrent or right click and download. And look at the bottom of my screen here. I can't move my mouse or it'll disappear. But down at the bottom corner of what I'm sharing, it says there's a site with ARM images, Kali Linux, 2020.3v, blah, 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 .xz. That's what you're going to download when it's done. It's about a 2 gig download. And an XZ type of file isn't used or recognized by Windows by default. So what you're going to have to do is get a utility that knows how to deal with XZs. And you should probably know what an XZ file is. I'm taking a micro SD card here. This is a 16 gig card, putting it in an adapter. It's a fresh, blank, shiny new card. And you're going to need ultimately to put this in a reader. If your computer has a native slot for it, then plug it right in. That's why I'm using this little full-size SD adapter, because I've got an SD slot. But if not, use a third-party adapter like this, or the ones that look like a little thumb drive. So to get this XZ file, an XZ file is a compressed file. It's kind of the common, I know, you saw my shorts, had to be. Okay, File Explorer came up, cancel this. It's whining at me because it's a fresh card that it's not even formatted. So an XZ file is a compressed file. Windows users are used to zip files. Take 1 or more files and compress them with a zip utility, they get a lot smaller. Linux users, Unix users, are used to 3 kinds of either file conglomerators or file compressors. They use tar, they use gzip, and they use XZ files. So we've got to get the image file out of that XZ file on our Windows machine that you've downloaded to. Unless you downloaded it to a Linux machine, then you've probably already got a utility that's ready to open it up. 7-zip.org, 7-zip.org. They have a free download utility that you download it, you install it, and it will integrate into Windows Explorer. It becomes a new memory item, a new context item. Cancel this. So let me open up my File Explorer, and then I'll share it with you. Downloads. Okay, we can use that. You're going to see some files I downloaded lately. You can ask about them. Scott might even know the answer because I used it this morning in our morning meeting.
Uh-oh. That means I was paying attention.
That's true. You may have been walking the dog while you were talking.
I was actually.
All right. So these are the answer to a question that somebody asked in another forum. I've never seen a computer power supply, they said, that has the 110, 220 voltage switch. So I gave them an answer, and then I gave them 5 pictures of it that said, really, they're real. And you can ask somebody else about the Whopper stuff. I had a good time with that this morning. Here is the downloaded XZ file. You can see over here it says XZ file. And after you download and install 7-zip, when you right-click on a file, the context menu comes up. Can you see that? Yeah, you should be able to.
Absolutely.
Okay, so there's 7-zip. So I've right-clicked on my XZ file. I hover over 7-zip, and here you can open it or extract it here. And I chose extract to, and it'll create a folder that's the same name as the XZ file name, which I've already done. It's a quick process. And that's what happened here. This Kali Linux 2020.3 folder is what it created, and then it put the contents of the XZ file in there. So I open that up, and there's only one file in there, and it's an ISO file. It's actually an IMG file. So that's a file that's ready to be written with an image writer program to an SD card, to an optical drive, have to be a DVD because it's too big for a CD-ROM, to a flash drive or whatever. So the last thing you need to do is to go to raspberrypi.org whack downloads and download the Raspberry Pi image utility. There's one there for Mac, there's one there for Windows, and there's one there for Linux. Download that and install it and run it. So I'm going to run it, and then I'll show you.
Okay.
You can't see it all.
I know.
Because of the limitations of Zoom. Okay, there it is. Now we can share.
Sharing is caring, Dave.
It is. Now, if you didn't stick, had I not stuck my blank card in there, this SD card choice would have been grayed out. So it says, pick your OS. This is really cool. This is their new utility. You can pick an OS from here, and it will download it from the net. It's kind of like Noobs, except it's online real time, and it's a utility on your computer. But if you have a copy of an image file that you want to burn locally, then you select Use Custom, and then you browse. I'm already in download. That's cool. And there's the folder, Kali. Open up the folder and select the image file. Notice that was a 9 gig image file. So the XZ compressor compressed it from from almost 9 gigs to just under 2 gigs. Okay, so we got an image to burn. Then you pick where you want to burn it. And the system is smart enough to know the difference between a hard drive and an SSD and a traditional external storage like a micro SD or a thumb drive or something like that. So you pick that, and there's no other options to do. You just hit write, and it will write it, and then it will verify it. My system, fairly good performing system, decent amount of memory, takes 20, 25 minutes to do the job. And then when it's all done, there will be a close menu on here, and it says you can remove the SD card. And you take the little micro SD card and you put it in your unpowered Kali box, attach all of your peripherals to it, keyboard, your mouse, your wired Ethernet if you're going to go wired. Recommend that, at least for the setup, but wireless works just fine. Your monitor, all you need is one monitor, and then apply power. And it's kind of like installing Raspberry Pi OS for the first time. It does a few extra steps the first time it boots up to maximize the file space and things like that, but it takes you straight to the login screen after a fairly short time. Any subsequent logins and boots will happen even much more quickly but you've got Kali running. So let me bring that up and show you what you're going to see the first time.
All right.
Let me put this away, part of my OCD. Okay. We've all got something.
We do. We do.
There's just no reason. Oh, good. Okay. So there's no reason to believe it'll work, huh? But it worked. All right. Now we share.
Okay.
I tested sharing. It worked yesterday. It worked this morning.
I have faith in you.
You're so much better than my priest.
Wow.
All right. When it comes up, all you're going to see is this guy and a login box that has room for a login name and a login password. The default login name is Kali, K-A-L-I, all lowercase. The default password, anybody want to take a guess? Yeah, it's Kali. It's their 1 week security thing, but they got to make it easy for somebody to at least get started. And then, of course, you should change both of those things in short order if you're going to use this in the real world, or if it could get into somebody else's hands. And that means even by somebody potentially accessing your network from the outside, right? And so we got Kali going. And I'm going to give this a little tour in a little bit. I just want to show you the hard part now. And that was getting VNC running. Stand by, zooming through notes, xz7zip.org. Show and explore, right click on the Kali XZ file. Look at all this, we just slammed through pages. Pages and pages, attach your mouse, plug it in, log in with Kali. So go ahead and log in. So if we want to make a wireless connection, up here in the upper right-hand corner, you will see an empty rectangle, just a white rectangular box with blue in the background. And if you click it, that's your, go ahead, Scott. That's your Wi-Fi configuration utility. You click it and all of the SSIDs that are accessible by this computer will turn up. You click one, you put in the SSID password, and bam, you get this triangular signal strength indicator. So, okay, good to know if you need to go wireless. And of course, if you take this on a job somewhere, you're going to need to use their Wi-Fi. So you can click on this, disconnect. I'm connected to ABD. And with that hired, here's all the other nearby SSIDs that we can see. Mesa downstairs, that's a new one for my neighborhood. I don't know that one. OptiCover is new. All right, cool. Okay, so we're going to make this thing headless. This is not an ideal solution. And I went through 5 VNC installations that are all documented and they're all supposed to go boom, 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 and they don't. And I think the reason is Kali was recently had a major update, a whole new rev from 4.0 to 5.0 or whatever the current number is. And all those tutorials are no longer fully accurate. So I finally found one that, let's say, kind of works. And it ain't that one. I didn't pull that one out of my notes. Oh, but here is one that we got to do. Let's dive out of that. If you haven't already done this, if you've got a Raspberry Pi and you're not playing with real VNC, you need a real VNC viewer. And I'm going to presume you're going to do this from Windows. So let me open up a page. Just go to realvnc.com. I wonder if that opened what I wanted, because my pages are all obscured. All right, let's try this again. Control, click. There we go. Okay, it's coming up. I'll share. So if you go to realvnc.com, off their main page. Let me get this out of the way. Let's move that. There we go. You can go to their downloads page, and it says, notice here, VNC Connect consists of both a viewer and a server. So you'll get a viewer for Windows. Highlight Windows, download the viewer, because they don't have a server for Windows. They do, but and then before you download it, pick the right version for your Windows. So a standalone EXE that's just x86, one that's just 64-bit, or I use this one, an EXE that will auto detect if you're running 32-bit Windows. Why are you running 32-bit Windows in 2020? But you may be, or if you've got a 64-bit version of Windows, and then when you install it, it will automatically detect and install the right thing. So once you've got it installed, you will see a screen that looks something like, whoops, we've got to do this first. Okay, now we can share. There it is. Went to a funny place. You'll see a screen that looks like this, except there won't be any entries in here. It'll just be a blank screen. And once we know the IP address of your Kali box, you can open up the terminal and run ifconfig. I think I tried to run IP-ADDR and it's not supported. So you got to run ifconfig or hover over your Wi-Fi link or something like that. Then you can create a connection for it. We'll say new connection. You put in the IP address of your Kali server. You give it a name, my Pi-based Kali server, which I installed on this. You get the idea. And leave all the other things at their default values. And then we leave it alone because we don't have a VNC server yet installed on Kali. So that's our next project, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, as we are almost done. And Kali's working and ready to go, and we'll tour him shortly. All right, notes. We got a viewer. We're going to do the setup. All right, so the setup, there is a site that's long and ugly and evil and cryptic. So I'll put it up here for just a moment to share it with you. So you can go back and look at it in the archive. And if Scott really speed types, he'll probably be able to find it, but it's unlikely. But he's, you know what, I have been watching Mike type as he researches things for questions online. If you all see him type, you will see the tops of his wrist, and you'll hear the clicking, and it's very fast. Don't be fooled. He's not a touch typist. He can type that fast with 1 or 2 fingers on each hand. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, he's a two-finger typist.
Yeah, it's really amazing. All right, so this is the site where I got the setup VNC server, and you can do a search on X11 VNC server for Kali Linux, Raspberry Pi. Make sure you build that into your thing and find this sort. It's this site at forums.kali.org, but you don't need it because it's actually so simple. I'm going to show you everything you need to know, and it's pretty easy to remember and certainly easy to follow along with this tutorial. Okay, we're back in Kali. So as with everything that you always do, oops, I opened up the wrong thing here. There we go. Before you start anything, you should do a sudo apt update. And in the real world, I'm not going to do it now because it's time consuming and I've done one recently. You should also follow that up either on a new line when it's done or do it all on the same line with a sudo apt upgrade. You can also use apt-get upgrade, and we'll pre-feed it the yes I want to do with that. And it doesn't take long, but longer than I want to demonstrate this. So that makes sure that all of your repositories, oh, you know what this thing doesn't do? I'm holding down my backspace key, waiting for it to go into auto, and it doesn't. Their terminal doesn't have a full keyboard handler. So one by one. All right, so it's updated and it's upgraded. Next. This is the command of the day to install the thing. This will be really interesting if I can copy and paste. I don't remember how I did this when I did the install. Paste clipboard. Nope. Okay, I'll type it in manually. Is that possible? Oh my gosh. Okay, so to type this in manually, this is where I need a second monitor, because as soon as I start typing in here, all right, no VNC. All right, sudo apt install -y no VNCs. Sudo, can you see the text on that?
Yes, perfectly.
Okay, sudo apt or apt-get if you like, same thing. Install no VNC -y, so it doesn't stop and prompt us. Yes, do you really want to do that? And if you want to use apt install or apt-get install to install more than one package at a time, you can do that. Just list all the packages that you want, separated by spaces. So X11 VNC, and then this hard to jumble of characters, XVFB, X-ray, Victor, Foxtrot, Bravo. I don't know what it stands for. Something about Facebook. And I'm not going to hit the enter key on here because I've already done all this, but it goes very quickly. Be done in, should be less than a minute or so. So now you've installed it. And this particular kind of install is one of those ones, or these utilities, they don't auto launch, but we got to do something to make them auto or get them launched. And there's two things here. One thing that I didn't do with this, and that I'm not going to do in the demo, is I didn't build any facility for this to auto run the VNC server that listens for his VNC client all the time. So if I want to VNC to this thing as it is, I've got to run a listener, excuse me, every time I want to do a connection. And I'll show you what I did with that. Oh man, I would really love to be able to get this command to copy paste. Oh, I don't have to, but I'm going to try this one more way. Right click, paste selection. Yeah, there it is.
What, you didn't want to have to try and like remember that entire command?
I don't, and neither will you when we get done here. Let me show you what I did and do. Sorry, I can't just hold my backspace key. I got to touch each one. That 3 dot was in my notes, step number 3. And I didn't think I highlighted it when I copy pasted it, but it seems I did. Okay, so this is the name of the program that is the VNC server, X11 VNC, and then these are the options to control it. And I know and understand some of them. So if you have multiple displays, display number 0 is the first one we're going to use it on. It will automatically select an appropriate TCP port. Allow local hosts to connect as well as remote hosts. This one's, I think, is the most interesting one. I'm not going to read the rest of these for you. NOPW, no password. So the way I've got this thing set up, it's not going to prompt me for a password when I VNC connect to it. Not something I would want to do in the real world, right? Well, here's what I did. Since I have to do this every time I want to establish a connection, there's 2 issues there. There's 2 problems. One, wait a minute. Why do I have to establish a real VNC connection if I got a keyboard and a mouse? Well, because you'll need a keyboard and a mouse to run that command, right? Simple enough. The good news is Kali comes with a pre-configured SSH server. So you can get into it with the text interface just like that. Excuse me. And then you can run that command and that will turn on the VNC, so you can then use the graphical interface. I know it's kind of a cumbersome two-step process. And if we configure this thing to auto run every time it boots up, that would solve that problem. It's kind of contrary to the Kali philosophy. Well, here's what I did to make my life a lot easier. I putty connect to it. I'm here in my home folder, and I created myself a little bash shell called x11vncserver.sh. And if we want to see what's in there, oh, let's see, let's nano it. So there's that command. It's missing something here. So it should start with the bang, the pound sign. Yeah, it's a bang, whatever. I don't care. Here's the command and it works. Oh, I know why. I forgot to put that in after I rebooted and I redid all this. I forgot to put the bash shell bang. So it has one very interesting little problem with it. We can fix that if we say whack bash, and I saved that. I can't save this because I didn't sudo nano it, and I've learned in this folder you got to have sudo to do it, but that'll solve a problem I'm about to show you. All right, it's Control X out of here. No, don't save it. Clear. All right, so when you run that program, I just type in .whack xv11 vnc server.sh. That line will run, and your screen will suddenly look like this. So here's where I ran that command, .whack x11 vnc server.sh, and this pops up. VNC desktop is Kali 1. That's the first session that we're going to establish, and it picked a port, 5901. 5900s are default ports for VNC, and then it just sits there. It doesn't return me to the prompt. That's okay. I just want it to sit there and listen, so I shrink this thing up. Now it's up here at the top as a shrunken tile. This one is the active one that I'm running, and I don't even need it anymore. We stop sharing. Everything is done on the Kali box. The only thing you have to do now is this. You created, oh, I'm sharing the wrong thing here. No, I'm not. That's cool. I'm going to break my VNC connection with it so you can see it happen.
All right.
I can do that over here. Get out of there. It won't hurt anything. Very good. All right, so my VNC connection is broken with it. I've had a previous connection, so it's not just a blank. Let me show you what a blank one would look like here. 192.168.1. There's nothing at 44. Test VNC. So when you make a brand spanking new entry in the screen, it just shows this little icon of a screen until you connect to it. When you connect to it and then you disconnect, the last thing that it showed that it had going on when you disconnect is what would appear in the screen. So this is the last thing that showed up in my Kali box when I ran it.
Got it. Okay.
So you just double click it. It says, hey, this is an unencrypted connection. That's okay. Continue. I'm in-house right now. And it brings me to what you have been watching already. VNC. What are you doing, Goober? This.
Goober is Dave's pet monkey, by the way. Hanging around.
It's my pet name for me when I'm being an idiot. And that's the VNC connection. We've been doing this whole thing with real VNC. So the magic of this thing is we're using what's called an X11 system. That means the technology that drives the graphical interface on your Linux box, whatever Linux box you're doing. And usually you need an X11 client, VNC client, in order to access it. But real VNC is so cool and so smart. He says, I can deal with multiple kinds of desktop display technology, and X11 is one of them. So the magic here is that I don't have to have a different X11 VNC client to work with this and my real VNC client to work with Kali. So slick, huh? Quick tour, then we'll do questions and wind up the day because we're done. You've got a Kali box. You've got a way to remote to it. And you don't need to. You can always use a screen and keyboard. You can putty to it. A lot of these utilities are textual. Let's see, it's 45. I'm going to do this for about 6 or 7 minutes. I'm not going to teach a Kali class today for 2 reasons. Reason number 1, I'm not a Kali guru. And that means I don't even need to bother with reason number 2, which is we ain't got time. But things I want you to know about. First of all, the settings for your Kali box. How did I get into this? The little Kali menu icon up here. So click that guy. You can go into settings, and there's a lot more settings here than meets the eye. By the way, Power Manager is where you have to go to enable or disable screensaver, which amazingly is where you go in Windows. There's usual applications. Let's just do this. There are 13 categories of tools that you can find in Kali.
Oh, wait, so did you do this on purpose?
Yes, I do everything on purpose.
You did this, the 13 Kali tools on Friday, the 13th?
I put a lot of thought in today's date.
Awesome.
Added 2 more folders. All right, so there's information gathering tools here, and they're subcategorized into DNS information. I'm not going to read all this stuff to you. Route analysis, server message block, or Samba analysis, SNMP analysis. You get the idea. Vulnerability analysis. Here's some primary tools. Nikto is a web server analyzer. Legion, I looked up last night. I remember what it is. VoIP tools. Fuzzing tools are tools that you use to, somebody's created a program, and the program calls for input. Insert name here. Well, what if somebody put wacky characters instead of a name there? How would the program react? That's called fuzz testing, when we check that kind of stuff out. So here's tools that will automatically create fuzzy inputs for programs. Pretty cool, huh? Web app and analyzers. Where's the good stuff? I'm not going to read all this. There's a SQL database, browser, and manager. That's kind of cool. There's password attack analyzers, password attack tools. You can do password attacks here. That's used for penetration testing, of course. Wireless crackers, wireless attackers. Man, I missed a good one here. Oh, Nmap. Nmap's down here. Wireshark's in here. This Nmap is not ZenMap. Some of you may have used ZenMap before. Nmap is a command line utility. You run Nmap space -a, -n, -tl4, and so forth. And for those people who don't want to, haven't learned yet all those things, Zen is a company that's created a graphical front end that you can use that, pick options, and it will create the command line for you. All right. Again, I'm not going to go through all that. Maybe we'll do that on another day. That might be a cool thing to do. That's how to install Kali Linux on a Raspberry Pi. It's a really simple 3-step process. Download the XZ file from kali.org or Offensive Security. Extract it from the file. Use a writer, an image writer, to write it to your SD card, pop it in your Raspberry, and power up.
So let me just point out something that may or may not be obvious, but let me at least say it.
Fire away.
Kali Linux is insanely powerful.
Oh,
I mean,
man.
insanely powerful. It is a set of tools
all that stuff
that enables you to do some serious penetration testing, to hack networks, to crack passwords, to break into Wi-Fi networks. There's a lot of power there, right? And if you do this stuff without permission from the companies that you crack into, you can go to jail. So really, really careful here. Yeah.
It has been mentioned before, with great power
comes great responsibility.
Super.
Yep, absolutely.
Right.
Raymond, break your own Wi-Fi. I mean, we set up in-house at Total, we set up networks that we then hack, right? That's how we practice. You can do the same thing using VMs, even if you don't have like a ton of machines laying around like some of us do. Nobody has as many machines laying around like Dave Rush. I'm just saying.
Only if you count Pis. You got probably more regular computers than I do. Yep, I'm watching your count. You got more than I do. I got 3. No, 4 if you count the HTPC.
Nice.
All right. Well, let's see if there's any good questions that wound up along the way, because I don't think we're going to need to go into the 95 cool projects that I lined up if we didn't have enough time to show you. I got burned by that a week or 2 ago, and I thought, okay, I'm going to have something ready to go. Don McLean shirt. You know, I saw a Don McLean concert televised the other day. Let's say 3-4 weeks ago. It was one of those places that said, you know, no mask, you're on your own, good luck. And Don came in. Man, you won't recognize him. He has not aged well.
He's got to be like 80, right?
Yeah, I think, 180, 190, something like that.
Wow. Wow.
Hey, did you find anything good we need to talk about in here? I'm just blasting past.
I did not see it. We were basically talking about typing, about various things. Nothing, no questions.
Sounds good. I see a shot across my elbow. Dave must be looking at a different version because it doesn't say blah, 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 blah for me.
Yeah, right. So if you do have some questions, we have a couple minutes to address those. So post them now. Otherwise, and of course, Web Dev Bootcamp. Yes.
Oh, in fact, while we're waiting on that, let me show you something. This is really cool. If you're not checking out linuxtoday.com, it's a daily news blurb. I will confirm that address in 10 seconds. And you have any kind of interest in it at all. Alice turned me on to this, and I'm very appreciative. I'm on there daily now and get good stuff out of it.
I mean, part of the reason that we focus on the Pi is because it runs various versions of Linux, which are on A+, Network+, Security+, and certainly beyond. So it's something you need to know just to get your certifications. And
okay, so yeah, it's linuxtoday.com. And I am sharing with you, probably not what I'm thinking I should be. No, I am. Okay, good. So somebody always posts an interesting Linux article, not in Linux Today. Linux Today is a news conglomerator. So they get these notices of cool articles and installations and things like that have been written. And this one just popped up, I don't know, a week or so ago, 20 really useful nmap commands over at linuxtechie.com. And it's great collections of command line parameters that are explained, and I really like it. Okay. Trogador, the burninator. That's a terrible word. There's a better word than burninator. I don't know what it is, but it's there. Dave, I managed to run real VNC on Kali. Initially, I got a gray screen with an X in the center, then open Raspi config on SSH, change the resolution. Interesting possibility. I'll experiment with that. Works randomly. I won't experiment with that.
Yeah, I had to manually change resolution on my Kali installation on my VM.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll do some poking with that then. That'll be fun. When I open my browser, it can't find the page. Mavis Beacon? Well, do you want to learn to touch type? Is she I'm amazed she's still around. She was like one of the first application programs you could get it on floppy disk. Mavis Beacon typing tutor. Who Mavis at the time, I remember her credential. She was recognized as the fastest touch typist in the world.
Really? I didn't
Yeah, I
realize.
think she typed like 37,000 words a minute or something with no errors. It was some insane number. I believe it was in the low 200s, but I'm winging it now. That was so long ago. What do we got? Another 5 minutes. Okay, we can look through these for 2 or 3 more minutes.
So 351.
Cool, I was close to you.
Yep. Web Dev Bootcamp says all the ink cartridges are brand new. Uh-oh, I think I missed something.
Yeah, he's got a printer problem. Went through some maintenance process, head alignment. Yeah, my printer doesn't print good. Oh, bad quality printing. Okay, so
previous question.
Yeah, if the cartridges are new, that means I'm going to assume color. You're using the word cartridges, so it's color. Okay, I'm going to guess. Wait, nozzle check. You have an inkjet printer.
Right.
Oh, those go bad. God, the paper handlers go bad. There's a heating element that goes bad.
You have to use the right paper.
Oh man, you have to use the right paper. And certainly don't use glossy unless it's glossy designed for inkjet.
Right. I mean, so many variations on this.
Yeah.
Do you have cats?
Yeah, clean out is fair game.
Yeah.
Stream up now, watching for the sign. Okay, good. 3 minutes, Michael.
Michael pinging us in the background, going, "Hey, your time is almost up, guys."
We'll be shutting down on time, says Michael. I like Elbow. 9 out of 10 Linux developers say story continued on page, which is true. What's wrong with the other concept, though? How come there's always a blank page that says this page intentionally left blank?
I don't, I published books. I have no idea. I have no idea. Why waste that paper? Why waste that page?
Yeah, I'm with you on that, you Foreman. Printer heads. Oh, the world is a laser world now. All right, well, we've gotten through all the questions, and I hope you've had fun. I hope you learned something. I hope you do this. It works on a 3, and it's not bad. I did one time just for a hoot to see how that would go. But it works a lot better. It's snappier, it's crisper on a 4. And again, 2 gigs. Think about that. It works fine on a 16 gig micro SD card. I grabbed a card at random when I did my install. It was a 64. It actually kind of surprised me when I was like, oh, well, fine, it's 64. It's not a waste. I'll blanket. For those of you interested, after we shut it down here, I get changed to something more comfortable, kick the dog, and then I'll head over to Discord. Scott walks his dog and changes into something more comfortable.
Right.
Combs his hair. We still got 2 minutes.
My hair is beyond combable at this point. It is the COVID due, man.
Yep. All right. Yeah. Sorry, we couldn't be more helpful on that. The days of inkjets are sliding by us. We know enough to get through our own old experiences. Man, I've had them utterly total fail, but 4 different ones with poor quality printing. I mean, I don't know what that means, fuzzy or whatever. That's really weird. The one thing they have in common is they're all in the same cartridge carrier. So they may become cockeyed or loose. I'll be thinking about that all week. Send us an email, WebDev. We'll roundtable with some of the guys at the office, some of the women at the office. Weekend's coming up. We got another storm developing in the Gulf. Stay safe, those of you who may be impacted on it. Otherwise, enjoy good weather. The Torrids meteor shower starts on Monday and Tuesday. It's a good one. It's got poor rates, about 1 an hour, but when they go, they're huge, wonderful fireballs. And then we're weekly working on the Leonids, which is the best show for rate in November. It runs through the 20th. It'll peak around the 10th or so. So I know, I'm a stargazer. I love that stuff. Michael, quick note on inkjets. They are, I lost it already, vanished. Did you see it, Scott?
The way web gallery photos are printed, something like that. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah, there's a good question then. Do you always get poor print, or is it with pictures and not text, or text with but not pictures? There's some possible troubleshooting things to research on.
Yeah, there's a lot of things we can do always, he says. So
Andre's going to have it cloudy. Tullowit will not have it cloudy. They don't know about clouds in Hawaii.
And I will just have light pollution, and I won't see any.
Yes, you will. All right. Well, let's wind this thing up then. You have a good meeting at McGraw-Hill. We'll see you after that.
Yep,
I
absolutely.
will have a good meeting with nice folks over here.
Sounds good. See you
Closing
on
thoughts?
Discord. Pardon?
Do you have any closing thoughts?
See you on Discord.
Okay, yeah. And don't forget to vote, because I think some of the states are still accepting votes.
On that note.
Hey, have a good weekend. Good night.
You funny man, Dave.
I kill me. And he's